So I surely expected with today's talk that everybody skip dessert, right? And the cups will remain on the table, your chocolates will remain here, all of those kind of things. So no. So again, my name is Christian Engle, and I always preface this with what qualifies me to do this. Really nothing other than, I do have a degree in it, I'm passionate about it, I enjoy it. But I also want to preface the fact that I am not your doctor. I know nothing about each individual, so you're going to hear a lot of just generalizations, some things that are out in the community now. Well, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I'll introduce some of our staff as well, because they're key components of what we do at the YMCA, but also key components for just access to resources and different things like that. And to start everything off, and I'll do something at the end, but I would like Sarah to stand up. So Sarah is the YMCA's registered dietitian. This is somebody that we brought on staff purposely for things like this and our events. We do a lot of work with hospitals, a lot of work with people with issues, so we wanted to make sure we had somebody who was qualified on that. I'm also pointing Sarah out because if I say anything she disagrees with, she'll point it out to me at the end of the day. So, so thank you. Like I said, I've been an athlete forever. I've been involved in this forever. One of the things that we'll talk a little bit about today is the disconnect sometimes with our medical field, but also exercise and food. And I'll talk a little bit about that and the importance really of all of it, all of it kind of coming together. Let's see if I can work this. All right, so when we say food and or exercise is medicine, the intent of this is that we must treat these topics with the same serious and dedicated attention that we do medicine, not that we think them as substitutes. Getting a pill is easy, right? Or getting a pill is easy. Changing your habits are hard. So lots of times we gravitate to the pill because that's the easy piece versus really changing our diets. And quite frankly, for a lot of us, it probably is a combination of both. We probably should be on some sort of medication. We probably should be following some sort of exercise routine. And all of us should definitely be following better nutritional practices. But we've got to figure out how do we combine all of these things because they all have an impact down the road. You won't live longer by diet or exercise alone. That's a key thing. New research is showing now that healthy eating and regular workouts do not in isolation stave off later health issues. You have to do them together. So there is such a thing. They've actually started defining it in a lot of the scientific journals that there are what we're now referencing, and I'm going to use very poor words here. Don't be offended, but fat, skinny people. And there are healthy fat people. And we've got to make sure that we're balancing the two because you really want to make sure that you're in a balance, that you're not just skinny because you don't eat or that you're skinny because you don't have any muscle tone or any bone structure or any tendon strength, that you are kind of balancing these things. And all of this kind of comes together. There are also, for somebody who's done Ironmans and somebody who's done marathons, I get passed frequently by people who are much heavier than I am. So it doesn't necessarily mean if you're a larger person that you're not fit. Okay, there's just other health issues that might be taking place that we're not aware of. So we have to make sure we're finding the balance with all of those things. In the medical system, only about 1/5 of American medical schools require students to take a nutritional course. Most medical schools do not offer exercise-related curriculum, and those that do, it's generally an elective. And that's an important thing because most of us get our advice from our doctors. And unfortunately, our doctors are like us. They get most of their information from their patients, from social media, from what they see on TV, what they may do, all of that kind of stuff, because they don't really have the background and experience in that. And that is something that we try to spend a lot of time with, especially as we connect with our doctors, is really becoming the resource for them. Because we are the experts. We have staff who are exercise physiologists. We have staff who are personal trainers. We have staff who are registered dietitians. That's really who you should be getting your advice from, not your doctor. I always say when I find a primary care, and I would give this advice to anybody, find a primary care who takes care of themselves. If you have a primary care physician who is overweight or smokes or doesn't necessarily take care of themselves, I'm not sure what the advice you're going to get is going to be. So you always want to preference that. And that's just for me personally, but I feel like if I'm going to go to the doctor and I want them to help me be a better person as I age, I want to make sure that I can, that they're following the same advice that I am or the same things that I'm looking at. Another thing you're seeing a big growth in right now in the medical system is functional medicine. And not to go dive too deep into that, But those are basically doctors who have done the studies and have done the research and are diving into nutrition and fitness, doing a lot of different things. We'll talk a little bit about biohacking at the end of this, but they're a little more in tune to what that is. Part of the challenge with functional medicine is that not all insurances cover it, so you're kind of out of pocket on that, which then creates a gap in who can afford it and who can't afford it, for a need down the road. As we talk about the medical system and we talk about all the great work that goes on, so I don't want any of the doctors or hospitals to think that I don't think great things are happening, because great things are happening. But if you look at Louisiana alone, the leading causes of death in Louisiana are heart disease, cancer, strokes, chronic lower respiratory diseases, Alzheimer's disease, and diabetes, and kidney disease. All things that can stem from obesity and being poor conditioned and poor nutrition and all of those different things. So again, we have a lot of medicines on the street, but we're really not addressing the root cause of what's creating these issues. And a lot of it is our access to food, our access to exercise. And I'm going to try not to go too far down that path, because we'd be here for the next week and a half trying to talk about access and different things like that. But just the statistics alone show that we need to do a better job of improving the health of our state. And a big part of that is through nutrition and exercise. So as the slide says, the most important step toward mental and physical health is realizing that no single protocol, program, supplement, or prescription is alone going to solve it. We need to initiate a series of daily actions toward persistent well-being. So I'm one of the crazy people that I'm up at 5 a.m. every day. I'm at the Y every morning, 5 days a week. And not everybody can do that. Not everybody likes the morning. Not everybody likes the afternoon. Not everybody likes to exercise. I'm a little weird that way. I'm pretty fanatical about my food. I promised Sarah I wouldn't talk about my eating habits because they're a little extreme. But we'll talk a little bit about what everybody should do on a general standpoint. But we've got to make sure that we're doing a combination of this. If you're going to your doctor and he's giving you a pill and you think, great, I'm good, you're really not enough. Everybody's goal should be to get off medication, not to get on medication. So how do we address those things? So I'm going to focus on 5 main things for better health. And all of these are things that we can all do. Nobody has an excuse. The best excuse I ever heard as a trainer was, I don't have time. And I'm sure a lot of us in this room would say that, I don't have time. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, right? So it's really about priorities. It's really not about a lack of time. It's really about what am I prioritizing in my life. People will ask me all the time, why do I exercise so much? First rule, and I'm very open about this, vanity, right? I mean, we all want to look good. We want to make sure if we're somewhere, want to make sure we look good. Second thing for me is I'm very hopeful, cross my fingers, that my kids will have grandchildren, or have children one day, and I'll have grandchildren. I do not want to be the grandfather that can't go to Disney World, or can't go to the beach, or can't take my kids on walks, or play in the front yard with my grandkids, or if they're riding a bike, not be able to go ride a bike with them. I want to be the granddad that's the cool granddad that's out there throwing a baseball and running around and going to different things. And so that is really motivation number 1 for me on why I try to stay healthy and why I try to stay fit and take care of myself, is for that piece of it. People will also default to genetics. Well, my genetics say that this is going to be it. A lot of science is coming out and saying that's not true. Our genetics are predisposed to certain things, but we all have the ability to change them and modify them. And really that comes down to how we're living our lives and the types of foods we're eating and different things like that. So number 1, sleep. Sleep is probably the biggest precursor to fending off depression, fending off anxiety, increasing our health, all of those things. The recommendation is 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And this is 6 to 8 hours of quality sleep. How many in the room think they get 6 to 8 quality hours of sleep every night? So not as many hands go up as you'd like to see, right? So sleep is a big, big piece of this. It has the largest impact on learning, thinking, memory, stress relief, immune booster, and an emotional stabilizer. Also has several other enhances. Biggest things I can tell you about sleep. Don't drink caffeine after 2 o'clock. Cut it out. How many of us have coffee at 3 or 4? Cut the caffeine out because it stays in your system longer and longer. Reduce your sugar intake. How many of us put sugar in our coffee? So all of these things impact your ability to go to bed at night and ability to sleep. You might think, oh, it's 3 o'clock. I'm going to go to bed till 10 or 11 or midnight. All of that stuff stays in your system and keeps you stimulated, whether you think it is or not. So you really need to work on kind of cutting down your caffeine. Again, I'm kind of the extreme. Who in the room has never tasted coffee? Yeah. So, now, Donna, I will tell Donna my wife loves her coffee. So, and I don't drink tea either or anything else and stuff. My staff would tell you that if I was on caffeine, it would probably be a little scary sometimes in our office. But you really have to make sure you're managing your caffeine intake and how you're dealing with those things, especially when it comes to quality sleep. So, sleep is the other thing. Quality sleep is the other piece. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, you're not getting quality sleep. So again, it's 6 to 8 hours of quality sleep. So that means when you go to bed, you go to bed. Work on relaxation techniques. You can download apps on breathing. I actually sleep with what is called the Bose sleep buds. They fit inside my ear so I can roll around and flop around and everything else, and they just play white noise. So it drowns out all the sounds and everything else in our house. Kind of terrifies my wife a little bit if something were to happen, what I know, but it allows me to get a good night's sleep. So sleep is key. Another one that people don't think about, viewing sunlight. So I get up early. I'm an early morning person. But everybody should go outside in the morning, drink your cup of coffee if that's what you do, but do it where you can face the sun. Even if it's a cloudy day, go to where you can view sun. It is the best thing you can do to start your day. It also improves your cortisol, which allows you to sleep better at night. And there's all kinds of science coming out about the more and more the importance of sunlight. So I just met Tara in the back, who moved here from Rochester, New York. And if anybody's ever been to Rochester, New York, for about 8 months out of the year, you get no sunlight. And when living in the Northeast, and again, a little to tell you how extreme I am, I actually bought a vitamin D light. So I would sit in the mornings, I'd get up, and I'd turn this lamp on, and I would let it shine on my face. You know, and it just, again, releases cortisol, all that kind of stuff. So it's really important that we get sunlight. Vitamin D, all the things that you hear and talk about, all that kind of stuff. So, but it helps your immune system, your metabolism, and also gives you the ability to focus for the day. So instead of reading the paper, drinking coffee, watching TV, go sit on your front porch, go for a walk, first thing in the morning, and get some sunlight. It's a key component. The next is movement. I promise not to go crazy on people. So, cardio, resistance, and mobility training. So 2 key differences. Doing a triathlon is not cardiovascular training. That is training for an event. Is it cardiovascular? Yes, of course, but it's training for an event. Cardiovascular activity recommendation is about 150 minutes per week in what is called zone 2. So it's basically about 20 minutes a day. So all of us have 20 minutes a day. You could do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. You could do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes mid-morning, 5 minutes in the middle of the day, 5 minutes later on, 5 minutes at the end of the day. Let's just get your 20 minutes in. Or go for an hour if you have a day one day and just going to knock out an hour. But to get that activity, doesn't mean running, doesn't mean you have to go buy a bike, doesn't mean you got to go jump in a pool. It just means get some cardiovascular at what is zone 2. Zone 2 means that David and I are going to go for a walk, and we're going to be walking at a pace where we can talk, but neither one of us really wants to. We could carry on a conversation, but we're both kind of like, you're kind of at that point of like, do I want to talk or not want to talk? You know, so that you can have a social interaction. Go for a walk with your wife, walk your dog, take your kids out, let them ride their bikes while you're walking, you know, whatever that is. Bring your 3 p.m. cup of coffee with you if you have to. But go for a walk and get some cardiovascular. That's cardiovascular activity. Okay? People tend to think, oh, I can't do cardiovascular activity because, I don't want to go run, or I have to buy a bike, or I got to go down to the levee and figure out how not to get killed by cars while I'm trying to walk on the street, or, whatever that is. Find time in your neighborhood. If you work in an office building, take the elevator. I mean, don't take the elevator. Sorry, take the stairs. Yeah, excuse me on that one. Scratch that. Take the stairs. Go walk around your office. Take 10 minutes and walk around the office. You don't have to get workout clothes or anything like that. Just go walk around the office. Get activity, get your body moving. That is cardiovascular activity. When you go to your doctor and he wants to listen to your heart and lungs and everything else, that's what they're looking for. They don't ever ask, hey, can you run a 5K? How fast can you run a 5K? They just want to know that you're getting cardiovascular activity, that you're improving your heart and lungs. Resistance training does not mean that we all have to become bodybuilders or weightlifters or, anything like that. I highly recommend it, but it doesn't mean that's what you have to do. Resistance training basically means putting your muscle in the stimulus mode, okay? If everybody here, and I won't make you do this, but if everybody here stood up, sat down, stood up, sat down, that's resistance training. If you leaned against a wall and did push-ups, just like this, that's resistance training. If you grabbed a gallon of milk and did this with it, that's resistance training. So you don't have to get fancy. You don't have to figure out what gym am I going to join or what program am I going to join or anything like that. We can talk about all of those things and the benefits of all of those things, but at the end of the day, you want to increase muscle tone. Again, if you really geek out on this and start diving into the science, you're going to find more and more they're finding the secret to longevity now is muscle. It's not heart and lungs anymore, it's muscle. They're really coming back to that as being the key component to living longer. We hear it all the time, right? Somebody slips and falls, they break a hip, they never get out of the hospital. They break bone of any kind. And so often that is not just because of the fall, it's really because of a lack of muscle structure, a lack of tendon strength, and a lack of bone density, which all comes from your walks, your strength training, all of those things. So you don't need a pill to cure any of that. You just have to be active. You got to get out and do stuff and make sure that you're doing different activities and different modes of activities. We would all love for everybody to join the Y, but at the end of the day, it's being active. It's getting out and doing stuff. Mobility training, stretching. All of us, who watches TV at night or watches the news or whatever else? Most of us do, right? Sit on the floor, stretch while you're watching TV. You don't have to find extra time, or again, we talk about 24 hours in a day, right? We all have the same amount of time. Squeeze it in. Do your stretching at that point. Join a class where stretching is available. Talk to your partner and say, hey, let's sit in the living room while we're watching our favorite TV show and stretch. There are apps, there are videos, there's all kinds of stuff that you can find on stretching. The number one cause of back pain in America is lack of flexibility, is inflexibility. The other one is core strength. So all of that kind of comes together. So when you go to your doctor, oh, my back hurts, or I threw my back out, or whatever that is, anybody that has employees, I think that's number one or number two in workers' comp is back issues, inflexibility, and core strength. So we really need to work on our mobility training. As we get older, that becomes more and more important. Strength training becomes more and more important. Again, if you dive into the science now, they'll tell you if you're limited on time and you're choosing between am I going to run on the treadmill or go for my walk or do resistance training, they're going to tell you do resistance training. Do that first, especially the older you get. Women, number one thing you can do is strength train. Number one. Women have the highest issue of bone issues, osteoporosis, all that kind of stuff as they get older. Strength training is the key. And again, you don't have to try to become a bodybuilder or lift weights or anything like that. Just do some light resistance training. Get some bands. Go to Walmart and just buy some rubber bands that you can move around. Download an app so that you can do stuff at home. But resistance training is key. All right, this is where I promise not to get in trouble, Sarah. Nutrition. The biggest thing with nutrition is find what works for you. Okay, and you're going to hear all kinds of stuff, and if anybody wants to ask me offline about my eating habits, I'm more than happy to share them. But you want to find what works for you. The best advice that I can give is to eat whole foods. Okay, probably the greatest piece of advice I ever heard was if you have to read a label to see if it's healthy, you shouldn't be eating it. So if you think about that in general when you go shopping, if you're like, oh, let me look and see if this is healthy or not, you shouldn't eat it. Just put it up. Don't even read the label anymore. So you should eat whole foods. That make sense to everybody? Okay. Quality. I'm not going to get into grass-fed or organic or any of that kind of stuff. Eat whole foods. It's all the same. Now, We get into different communities, and like I said earlier, we start talking about access. It's a whole different discussion. You know, Mike knows that at Blue Cross. We'd be here for a month trying to figure out how we improve access to food. So really, this speech really is for this room. Everybody in this room has access to high-quality foods and can afford high-quality foods. But eat whole foods. That's the biggest thing. Eat real foods. So again, if you have to read a label, it's not real. So keep that in mind. A lot of things come out around, I don't know, vegetable hamburgers or different things like that. We'll pick on the Impossible Burger because that's the most popular one. Read the label one day. Like, really read the label. Eat real foods. Okay? If you're vegan, vegetarian, great. Eat whole foods. Don't try to find substitutes or, different things like that. I say all of this with the understanding, too, that a lot of us, if you decide tomorrow you're going to change your eating habits, go slow. Okay, we used to say, and if I'm bringing my lunch to work and I've got a sandwich and a bag of chips, replace the chips with an apple. Don't worry about the sandwich. We'll deal with that later. Kind of take things, one step at a time and go slow. According to the 2025 Dietary Guidelines for Americans, the core of a healthy diet is built on high intakes of a variety of nutrient-dense foods and beverages, including, and there's 2 columns here, and I'll explain these. The one on the left is the dietary guidelines. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low and non-fat dairy, lean protein, healthy fats, and oils. The one on the right is my list. I'm not a fan of whole grains, but we can argue about that later on. But I'm a believer in lean proteins, healthy fats and oils, vegetables, fruits, low and non-fat dairies, and of course healthy fats and oils. So as you start thinking about your food choices, those are the things you want to think about. Portion sizes, everybody go, how much should I eat, how much shouldn't I eat? General rule of thumb would be, fist size or palm size. So if you're getting a piece of chicken, vegetables, whatever your kind of plate's going to be. If you feel like you can eat more of the protein and the vegetables, not more of your healthy grains. Different things like that. But again, some of that's personal. The key is to find what works for you. Don't do what Christian does. Don't do what somebody else does. Find what works for you. And that's why, and I mean this honestly, find a registered dietitian, sit with them, because they'll learn about your history, your blood chemistry, your family, what your activity levels are like, and they'll help design a plan for you. If you're meeting with somebody like me, we go to the gym together and we're working out, and you're like, hey, how do you eat? And you just all of a sudden, that could be the worst thing in the world for you, because I don't know your blood chemistry. I don't know what your personal world is like. I don't know anything like that. So don't copy your buddy. Have somebody really sit down and map out a plan for you. Reduce sugar, salt, saturated fats, and alcohol. And I realize we're in Baton Rouge. That last one's probably the hardest one. But limit your intake, right? I always laugh when I go to the doctor and he's like, so how much do you drink? And I go, I don't know, maybe like on Saturday I'll have a cocktail or something, or maybe Friday and Saturday. And he's like, that's it? And I'm like, yeah, because the general rule is like, a glass of wine a night, or a whiskey a night. And I'm like, okay, so if you're in that range, you're good. That's pretty good, but limit it. Don't get crazy. The next one is social connection. And this is a big one. We don't talk enough about this. I was just at a conference in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and Dr. Murthy, the United States Surgeon General, was there, and I'm going to read this statement. He reported that the largest impact on our nation's health at this time is loneliness. We are facing a national loneliness epidemic with almost 60% of U.S. adults experiencing loneliness, indicating a prevalent and widespread issue in society. Who do you think are the number one loneliest population in the country is? Who? Seniors? Who? Kids? Men. Because we don't share our feelings, right? We go to happy hour and talk, or we're on our own, or maybe we go golfing, but we don't talk about our spousal problems or our work problems or kid issues or what's going on with me personally. We keep all of that stuff inside, and they're starting to find out now as they're coming out that it's one of the reasons that men are becoming more and more unhealthier is because of this loneliness factor, because we tend to be alone. And I'm sure if most women thought about it, and I'm being very global with this or general with this, most men's friends are the husbands of their spouses, like are their spouses' friends. Not necessarily their friends, but we're friends by default, right? If you're fortunate enough to have a good friend, that's great. But do you share? Do you talk? You know, stuff like that. Women are the opposite, right? Not to say they don't deal with it, but women tend to get together and talk about everything, right? You know, our spouses, our kids, our work, life, politics, you know, whatever. Men tend not to. This is where I would advocate for joining a gym, joining the Y. You know, I think about all the years that I did triathlons. It was never about the races. It was about the group of people that I rode bikes with and swam with and ran with and traveled to races with. That was our community, right? Catherine, who's in the back, stand up, Catherine, and say hi. Catherine's our wellness director at our Manship Y, and I'm sure she would agree with this. Our group exercise classes are huge. And not necessarily because everybody loves the class, but it's, I get to see Christina. How are you? How's everything going? We get to catch up and talk and take classes, and that's men and women. I work out at 5 a.m. The same 10 guys are there every morning at 5 a.m. What do we do? How was your day? How's everything going? You know, we talk. We have this relationship. They all have a group text, and they're texting each other about birthdays and who's doing what and who's traveling on vacation and, you know, all of those things. You need that. You need that connection. We all need that. And loneliness is a huge issue. With youth, what we're finding is COVID did a number on that. I mean, you guys can all read the research on that and see all of that and everything else. And there's just been a huge disconnect with kids. And mental health is a huge thing right now. But it's having a huge impact on the health of our country right now is loneliness. I'm happy to say, and we're actually the first Y in the country that's been able to do this, but we now, through Humana and through United Healthcare, offer a free membership to the YMCA if you're on Medicaid. So again, the people who are at the lowest income level in the population, because they are the highest at risk for loneliness, right? Just from a income scale and everything else of access to things. All of those are opportunities for people to engage with others. So it's not about access to the treadmill. It's not about access to the group exercise. It's about getting them in the door and giving them an opportunity to have a conversation. Somebody mentioned seniors. Seniors without access or seniors without transportation, 100%. Huge, huge loneliness issue. Seniors, on the other hand, are the most social. And if you come to any of our YMCAs, you'll see it. They'll be there at 8 in the morning till noon. And they sit in the lobby and they drink coffee and they talk and they hang out and they catch up and the whole thing. That's their workout. I mean, for them, that's great. And it's the biggest impact they can have is that loneliness factor, right? Just getting out of the house and having interaction with people. So social connection is huge and something that we really have to work hard on addressing. But walk with a friend. Join a club. Join a facility. You know, do whatever you can just to do something. Get a neighbor to go walk the neighborhood with you, just so you have somebody that you can have some sort of social interaction with. All of us that have kids in youth sports programs, crazy day, crazy everything, you're pushing kids everywhere, but that's your social connection, right? You're around other families, you get that big outlet. When your kids leave the house, that's when you're trying to figure out, what do I do next? New trends. I don't even know what time it is. Am I going over? I can talk forever. All right. So what are new trends? This is kind of the funky stuff. Will probably scare my staff a little bit, but these are a couple of the things that I kind of picked out that are big and things that I would recommend everybody try. Ice baths. If you've never done an ice bath, do an ice bath. It is the greatest experience in the world. So when I was doing triathlons, I did this about 4 days a week. Now I do it twice a week. But and I'm a delicate guy, so I'll lay a towel in the tub so I don't have to put my body on the porcelain, so I sit in that. I turn the cold water on, and I have bought a bag of, like a 10 or 15 pound bag of ice, so I let it fill up, and then I dump the ice in it. And I sit in it for about 30 minutes. I will tell you that inflammation of your joints, just how you feel, it is life-changing. You will all love it. It's life-changing. If that's not your thing, then I would recommend this. When you take a shower, you should take a cool shower, not a hot shower. Most dermatologists would tell you that anyways, but take a cool shower. But when you're done with your shower, turn it all the way to cold and just see how long you can stand in it, okay? Most people last about 5 seconds. The goal is to get to 3 minutes. That's your goal, is to stand under it for 3 minutes. It's an old Navy SEAL thing. My dad was stationed with Special Forces teams growing up, so I'd hear these stories all the time. So I grew up doing this. But it is better than coffee. It stimulates your blood flow, increases your metabolism, will definitely wake you up in the morning and get you ready to go. But great, so I challenge everybody to give that a shot. But cryotherapy is now becoming more and more popular. You see it more and more with elite athletes. A lot of people who don't even exercise are doing it because of the stimulation to metabolism, cortisol, all the different things that kind of let your body get healthy. Cold is becoming more and more this recognized stimulant. So something for everybody to try. So I expect emails from everybody that you tried this tomorrow morning and see how it goes. The other one is biohacking. So this is when we talk about functional medicine and different things. This is hormone therapy, smoothies, juicers, all different types of pills and minerals and the whole thing. I would talk to your doctor, talk to a registered dietitian, but geek out on some of this stuff. There's some pretty cool stuff that's going on. Different things that help with just joint inflammation, joint pain, anti-inflammatory drugs. People don't realize a lot of issues that go on with our metabolism and obesity rates are related to inflammation. So the more you can reduce that, your body reacts differently and it'll change differently and different things like that. But there's a lot of stuff. Again, go to a doctor, and I'm trying to make sure I say this the right way. There are places out there that will prescribe stuff to you because they can make money. Go see your doctor. Let him recommend I would say a functional medicine doctor, somebody who lives in this world, somebody that's going to check your blood work, that's going to manage your systems, all that kind of stuff. Again, I don't really get into a lot of this stuff, but I get my blood work done twice a year. I'm always like on top of it and trying to manage where I'm at, what I need to do, different things like that. But biohacking is kind of a new thing. There's a lot of science that's come out in the last about 5-6 years that everybody should take a low dose of metformin, which is a pre-diabetes medicine. Whether you're pre-diabetic or not, that just everybody should. It helps you regulate your sugars and A1Cs and everything. So, talk to your doctor about some of this stuff. Everybody gets in, here's hormone therapy and thinks, oh no, it's a lot of new science that's out there and a lot of neat stuff that you can kind of get into, but only if you're interested. The last thing I'm going to share is very Y specific. So eGym, and we're going to show a video here in just a second. eGym is a product, we're the only place in Louisiana that has it. It is electronic strength equipment. So once you get trained and shown how to use it, you get a bracelet. So when you show up at the Y and you want to get on the leg press machine, you touch it, it moves for you, and then you do your workout. And it's kind of gamified. It's got little things you follow and stuff like that. The beauty about it, though, is every piece of data that you have is downloaded to your phone. So when you go see your doctor, you can share with him, here's my activity, here's what I've done, links to our cardio. Every 6 workouts, Catherine? Every 6 workouts, it'll take you through a strength test and a cardio test, so to make sure you're progressing. How many different workouts are there? Like 8 different programs, right? From explosive to strength training to athletic training to fat burning to basic to all kinds of stuff. But we'll show you a quick video on this. I don't think I can even guide this thing. If you could click that really quick. Oh, the link. Is it working? Can you copy and paste it into the internet? Oh, we don't have internet. Okay, never mind. If I can, I'll try to send the video out to you. It's really, really cool stuff. No weight stacks. You don't have to remember what your seat adjustment is. You don't have to anything like that. We're working with 2 systems right now doing cardiac rehab with it because their doctors can see kind of what they're doing and they can share with them and different things like that. So it's really neat stuff. But there's a lot more of this type of stuff that's kind of coming out now. So that there too. And then, of course, the last thing is a QR code. If you do want to meet with, oh, it's not moving now. Oh, everything's down. Can you get to the next slide? Thank you. If you want nutritional services, you can click the QR code. I know we'd be happy to meet with you and share anything with you. So I'll stop there and answer any questions anybody may or may not have.
You didn't say anything about water.
And Sorry, you're right, hydration, yeah. So I guess I should have tied that into the nutritional piece. So you'll hear a lot of different things about how much water you should drink, so I'll share what my philosophy and understanding is. So I drink half my body weight in ounces of water. So for me, so I weigh roughly about 200 pounds, so I drink 100 ounces of water every day. So you kind of fit that in. Another kind of rule with that too, when you're thinking about, so I'm not a fan of the scale. Don't weigh yourself. It's probably the worst indicator of your health. They're using this in the military now, is your waist size times 2 should be less than your height in inches. So when you think about that. So I'm 6 foot tall, so I can get up to a 36-inch waist, 4 times 34. But so you just want to kind of keep different rules of thumb in mind for just different things like that. You know, we talk about health and wellness, and I read this article about 2 weeks ago. The number one concern, I can't get the right words in my head, related to military right now and protecting our country is the health of our teens coming out of high school. Because I think it's 80% of high school graduates are not fit enough to even go to basic training. And basic training is where you get fit to get ready to go into the military. So now they've created programs where you go to that in order to get in shape to just begin going to basic training. So those are big concerns right now. Washington, D.C. YMCA does a program with the FBI because they can't get cadets into the FBI because they're not in shape enough to even go into the FBI. So they go to the Y, they join a program so they can get in shape to then enter the FBI, or not even to enter the academy, in order to even to apply to be into the academy. So when we talk about nutrition and health and exercise, these are all examples that you can set for your children, your grandchildren, everything else down the road as well.